Welcome to part 3 of our trilogy. In our last episode, we looked at how creativity plays a vital role in shaping successful leadership. Erik explained how we are conditioned through cultural programming and how these internal scripts can be consciously unraveled, or as he calls it, unscrambled. Now, in this third and final episode, we explore 3 powerful concepts. One is embracing the unknown and why certainty is often a myth. The second is the importance of script writing and how leaders can author new realities. Thirdly, we explore the growing influence of AI on leadership, adaptability, and human potential. So let's dive in. You know, one thing caught my attention when you were talking about the trips. You were saying going into the unknown. So the thing is, with organizations, they thrive on certainty and predictability. How does that tally up with being in the unknown and uncertainty?
The certainty that you mentioned for a corporate role is an illusion. Companies can drop down tomorrow, and we've seen it happen. Part of the consciousness development that's happening on our globe is that institutions are falling apart. It's no longer possible as a leader to direct and to control it all. It's with social media, it's even going to go faster. So we need new ways of doing that. So that's the first point. I think it's an illusion that there's certainty. Even having a job at companies, it's an illusion that you have that job for the rest of your life. Things will change, and actually, the nature of life is uncertainty, is change. We're still not capable of really telling the weather forecast correct. There's no marketing plan, you will know, that is made, and at the end of the year is exactly how it was made. Everybody in business knows that, because there's unforeseen things happening. There's wars, like now. There's trade wars or tariffs. There's tsunamis. There's coronas. There's whatever is going to come our way, which is nature, which is the universe, which is why it is in motion. Mm-hmm. That's why what we do on our journeys, when we are in motion, it's life like that. And as human beings, we've been nomads, moving around. So that part feels familiar. It is more that our thinking gets stuck in the idea of certainty and then gets nervous when the certainty is broken down. But in our programs, people get used to that again. So they can relax into it. They start to trust the process. And when that happens, they can surrender. And when that happens, they can bring their potential in. So that's the sequence that how these things go. So it's not just about the unknown. Of course, we work really hard to create a safe environment and to have a proper process that we prepare meticulously. Another part is that the process is led by our clients, by the CEO. It's not led by us, because it's about the people with the people, the leaders with their people, who are also leaders.
Yeah.
Your question was more complex, so it's a bit difficult to give the answer complete to everything that was in your question. There is perceived certainty.
Yeah.
But I would say certainty is an illusion.
Yeah.
And that's something to live with. And the better we can cope with uncertainty, if it doesn't upset us, we can work it. We can do something with it.
Yeah.
And it's not the nicest example, but a good example is relationship. When we expect somebody to be with us for the rest of our lives, and it turns out not to be, look at what kind of emotions come. The sadness, the anger, the disappointment, the rage, people become different human beings compared to the love they experienced at the start because of an expectation. So if we can live, and I'm not saying that there shouldn't be relationships and there should be marriages and things like that, but a lot of the problems are based on the expectations. And this is where certainty, let's say the perceived certainty, can be a problem for living, for the creativity that you mentioned.
So one of the aspects of the things that you do is use script writing and storytelling. So tell us a little bit more about, first, how do you incorporate that into your leadership programs and the trainings and this whole experiential journey?
Yeah, so everything we do is scripted. So every moment. So when we have a 5-day program, every 5 minutes is scripted, like a movie. So we know exactly what happens when. When we cascade it to, let's say, into an organization, all the way down, 30,000 people or something like that, all of what we do is scripted, which means that it's not dependent on one leader or another, how the development is being done. The nice part is it's always done through their own voice, the way they're leading it. It's like the CEO leads a group of 150. It's the voice of the CEO. It's the personality. It's the energy of the CEO leading the people. But the program is completely scripted, but in a way that it becomes their own program. So they talk about their own strategy, about the things that are important to them, their own values, their own corporate values. So we don't bring in strategic content. They come with that. We help with the process, and that process is really very much scripted and fine-tuned over the years. So making these scripts is the script writing. And making sure that these scripts are solid and because we work towards behavior development. I mentioned the start is this out of reference, where we are scrambling the way people are being programmed, creating access to their authentic self, where once we have that access, when people are more comfortable with who they are, where they're open up and start to relax and start to surrender to the process, we start to activate passion.
Yeah,
it's all done. I can almost give you the timings when it's done on a day, and we have 30 programs around the world, 30 destinations of these big 5-day programs.
And you lead all of them?
I don't go with all of them, no.
Okay.
And we don't do all of them at the same time.
Okay.
Because we only do them when we have a client for it.
Yeah.
But after that, when we start to activate the passion, the next day we'll start to activate leadership. So we haven't done anything on the content yet. We're into day 3, and we start on leadership. But leadership, not about they should change. For each and every individual, it is, how should I transform? And that comes back to behavior. What am I going to do? What am I going to do different? And as a leader, you should then be busy with visualizing your future behavior. Now that's the essence. That's the core of the transformation that we do with leaders and organizations.
So isn't script writing a form of certainty, though? You're scripting every moment.
Yeah.
And it's certain how it will go.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like true. And so I say it's. I can also say it's an illusion, because you can also take it away and see what happens, and then also something happens. But by using it, we can guarantee that certain things will be happening.
But the way they interact will be very different every time.
not the way they will interact, but from who they are as a person, the tone will be different. So we work towards, on the Leadership Day, from developing your vision as a leader, your leadership vision. That's very much about visualizing your future behavior. So how are you going to behave? How are you going to build teams? What is going to be your impact? And what is going to be your legacy? Which leaders you think are great leaders? And what kind of behaviors from them would you like for yourself? So not just think about, I think that's a great leader. No, yeah, nice. But what of their behaviors do you want to acquire? Are you going to work on for yourself? Because that's where the transformation, that's where the development happens. And then we work towards what we call spicy dialogue, which is an environment where everything can be said. And we've been practicing that for 3 days. To open up, to listen to each other, to ask questions, to have dialogue, to be interested, but also to be spicy, to challenge, and to create a culture, like in a top sports environment, where challenging each other isn't perceived as attack, but as support, as constructive. It doesn't always feel nice, but understanding that the emotions are living in us, which we addressed on day 2, understanding that and allowing that to happen, you can even ask for support on that. So then you really get the collaboration, and you could call it creative. It's opening up to what is. Very much a behavioral thing to do.
So I'm just wondering, a lot of what you're doing is placing people in uncertain situations, in the unknown, unfamiliar to them, where there's an element of discomfort maybe, because you mentioned youth hostels and, going off the beaten track, unusual locations and so on. How does that particularly open them up in the way that you're mentioning?
Yeah, so the discomfort is relative. Again, as human beings, we've been nomads, which is still in our genetics, in our DNA, traveling around, moving around. Being close to nature, people love it. And it's almost everybody gets more comfortable in it. Of course, people that are more urban, grown up, sometimes have a certain thing with insects and animals and fears. But also by helping people to get close to nature, and people open up and relax in it. They actually like it. They really like it. It's more helping them to get there. That is the thing. And the programs do it. And when I say camps, we build camps where you can properly sleep with a good mattress. It's not about giving people a hard time. It is about helping people to be closer to nature. And how much closer can you be than sleeping in nature? And then also the people will do this together. So they're in it together. That's a funny thing. In the unknown, what do you have in the unknown? You have yourself and you have each other to rely on. And that strengthens self-confidence, but also the connection with others. Because how I personally, I've traveled a lot with my backpack. I crossed the Amazon. I lived with Indian tribes, and somehow I had it in me to do all these kind of things. I said that's for another podcast to talk about all that. But many people like it. Because people like to experience a part of themselves that they haven't experienced yet. And that's in the unknown. And when I was, before starting my company, I reflected on and I studied everything that I had learned. And I was intrigued because I've been doing in field hockey children camps, summer camps,
Oh, we didn't mention about your field hockey
No, that's what I said.
for another podcast.
There's a lot to mention on.
Yeah.
And the thing is, how children learn is they don't have too much limiting intellectual, mental luggage yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they're much more open to the unknown. And look at babies, everything that comes their way. And young children, we have to stop them and tell them what's good and bad, and be careful. And parents do that in different ways. So, but they grow like really fast. They are like sponges, how they learn. I've learned that adults can be the same. And the unknown is a great tool. So when we surrender to the unknown, then our, I would almost say, existing download programming information is not in the way anymore, because we allow the unknown to happen.
That makes a lot of sense. It's almost like a reset.
Yeah. And that's why we have this process. It is not a reset. So the scrambling of the programming is not getting it away, it's getting it out of the way, so we can bypass it and get access to the authentic self and to the consciousness that's behind it. Because that is open to learn and grow and connect and create and do whatever. Because that is not limited by our thinking. So as soon as we surrender it, we're no longer limited by our thinking. That it's scary or stupid or shameful or whatever, by our opinions. When we surrender, we can just participate. We can sing out loud and without shame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I had read that once the neuron paths are created, you can't uncreate them, but you can create new neuron paths on top that will take over.
Exactly.
So I like that you use scrambling.
And then go new pathways, and then repeat those pathways, like on the savannah, in the high grass, that you get a path through it, but you have to revisit it all the time. So that's why the reflection, we reflect and write and share and dialogue, that's a repetitive process, which is also something, that's why I mentioned earlier, that these 5-day programs are interventions to speed up and deepen the process. But it's something that actually it takes a couple of years to transform a culture of an organization.
Do you think AI will change anything with, how can we preserve this at the core of leadership, that it remains the human?
Yeah, I find it interesting. And for me, AI is as new for me as it is for everyone else. I do believe that AI will really help us with creativity. It can be creative itself when there's good prompts. When we can make better prompts, more creative prompts, AI can come up with all kinds of ideas and solutions. And AI is really good for that because it's not limited to the existing. It can create all kinds of combinations without any feelings on it. Mm-hmm. We still have to choose, which comes from our, let's say, system in who we are as creative beings. So, I mean, it's like of course, it's a different thing, but like when computers were coming, we were scared that they would take all the jobs.
Yeah, true.
But through computers, we can't imagine a life without it. And it takes away a lot of the hard work we had to do. Mm-hmm. So hopefully AI takes away a lot of the mind-numbing, a lot of the other hard work we had to do that you actually didn't like to do, or we're much better in being creative. Mm-hmm. A lot of people might think, yeah, but that's not work. Just having having ideas and having a good time together. Yeah, but maybe that's what we're destined to live. Like I said, business meetings, they should be joyful. They can be serious, but they should still be joyful. And you should be energized after it and not tired.
So you've worked with over 60,000 people, am I right?
Yeah,
In the past,
over 70,000 by now. Yeah,
over 70,000
yeah. We need to
from
update the website.
with a diverse set of cultures,
Yeah,
many cultures and many industries and many backgrounds. Can leadership transformation at an individual level actually create wider systematic change in organizations and society, do you think?
absolutely, absolutely. And it's I also always say it to our clients. I find it very courageous that they work with us, because it is unorthodox. It is a different path, and it is the unknown also for them. When they start to work with us, they have never done it themselves. They have to trust us that we know what we're talking about. And yes, we have a track record of 30 years in AAA companies and fantastic, but still, it is the unknown for them. And they have to go in it, and they're going to lead it. They're going to lead their people into the unknown. So it's all about, a lot about trust. I remember somewhere when I started, I already heard that there was scientific research that said that 60% of an organization is defined by the behavior of the leader and the leaders. So the way I definitely believe, if leaders behave in a certain way, that people will follow.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that in other parts of the world, and politically, that it goes like that. And people copy. We like to copy. And I hope we copy positive behavior and constructive and creative behavior that brings us to higher levels of consciousness, and not that keep us stuck in the past.
Yeah.
And directive and yeah, limiting our growth instead of supporting our growth. That's what I think for companies. When you can connect your company to a great purpose, then society will want you. And if you can align all the people in a positive and passionate way around that, yeah, it's gonna fly. People can be unstoppable. If you see what people are capable of, it's amazing.
So where do you see the future of leadership going? Where is it moving towards?
I have hopes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, that I want it to be available and accessible for everyone to grow and to learn and to live your own life the way you like it. And we will. It depends also on, do we look at the coming 40 years or do we look at the coming 700 years? There will be bumps. There's still dictators. It will get less. We will grow as a species and become more conscious. It's not going to happen in one lifetime. It's going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see what's happening, but I do believe that the consciousness development is something that you cannot stop. It's like expanding, like the universe is expanding. And there will be generations that don't need to dominate people as much anymore as some leaders think they need to do. I also hope that the leaders and managers will learn the qualities, how to get the best out of other people, because that's the most fun. As teams, to get the best out of people, getting the best out of yourself makes life most worthwhile.
We talked about cultures, we talked about diverse backgrounds and so on, but what about generations? Do you notice that generations act very differently? For example, the very young generation right now, the Z generation, before that there was the millennials. Do they approach this differently or is always the same, do you think?
Yeah, the Z generation we don't often have in our programs. It's usually slightly older.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it's very relevant, because I go back like the difference between cultures. It's the human being behind it. And for sure, different generations will have different challenges, but they still want to be seen in who they are.
Yeah.
They still, I think the access to information and knowledge and a lot of the tools, a lot of the things that we're doing it's more accessible.
Mm-hmm.
I can only hope that there will be organizations and companies that are built on the same foundation. It's the same leadership. Yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
the human beingness remains the core thing.
Yes.
And how do you they are differently programmed, but their desire, their needs, their authentic self behind that is the same. Like the consciousness, like the universe stays the same.
Yeah.
And we can hope that their programming goes in a more positive, open, free. But I can't look into the future if that's going to happen, because people develop in a different way. And what they say, social skills might be different than the past. The speed might be different. How they learn, how they interact with other people, how they can do things. Yeah, but the human beingness, I would say they still need to scramble how they're being programmed to get to the authentic self. You still need to look at what would you like your future behavior to be. You still need to work on the skills to cooperate, to challenge each other, to be challenged, to create together. Because the challenges will be there for mankind always. That's not going to disappear.
Yeah. Well, Erik, thank you for that very thought-provoking insights into the journeys that you create and your view on leadership and what it's the best way to unleash it. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you on another podcast, maybe.
Okay, happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, it was a pleasure.
So that concludes our trilogy. Across the 3 episodes, we've journeyed through insights and experiences that span over 25 years. Erik has guided more than 75,000 participants through transformative leadership programs, including some of the world's largest multinationals, helping individuals and organizations discover, develop, and grow in alignment with their strategic goals. We hope that this series has left you inspired, challenged, and equipped with powerful ideas for redefining what leadership can look like, not just in business, but in life. Thank you for joining us.